Ave Regina, Mater misericordiae, vita dulcedo, estes nostra salve.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. Luke. As Jesus continued his journey to Jerusalem, he traveled through Samaria and Galilee. As he was entering a village, 10 lepers met him. They stood at a distance from him and raised their voice, saying, "Jesus, Master, have pity on us." And when he saw them, he said, "Go show yourselves to the priests." As they were going, they were cleansed. And one of them, realizing he had been healed, returned, glorifying God in a loud voice. And he fell at the feet of Jesus and thanked him. He was a Samaritan. Jesus said in reply, 10 were cleansed, were they not? Where are the other 9? Has none but this foreigner returned to give thanks to God?" Then he said to him, "Stand up and go. Your faith has saved you." The Gospel of the Lord.
Of course, it's the feast of St. Martin of Tours, but it's also Veterans Day, strangely enough. And St. Martin was a veteran. Yes, he was. And he is considered the patron of soldiers, among other things that hold him in patronage. He was conscripted to be in the military at the age of 15. Wasn't his favorite thing to do, but he did it. And during his career in the military, he led a kind of a monastic life on his own. He had a heart for solitude. On one of their military campaigns, he encountered a poor beggar who was freezing. He cut his cloak in half and gave the beggar half of his cloak. And because he had this heart for the poor and the disenfranchised. He was not baptized yet. And so in a dream, Jesus appeared to him wearing his cloak that he gave to the beggar. And his heart was convicted. He immediately made the connection. What I do for the poor, I do for Jesus. And so he found his way to priests, and he experienced conversion, and he became baptized and stayed in the military. But after a while, his heart was really getting more and more alienated from the military, and he decided to approach the emperor to be a conscientious objector. And the emperor, of course, said, "You're a coward." And he said, "We're going to fight a big battle very shortly, and you just want to get out of that battle." And so St. Martin said to the emperor, he said, "Well, I'm not a coward." He said, "I just don't have the heart to fight anymore. I'll tell you what, just to prove my bravery and my trust in God, I'm going to go to the front of the army when it's time to engage in battle, and I'll stand there with nothing but a cross in my hands. How do you like that?" And so, on the morning of the battle, envoys from the opposing troops, the enemy, came into their camp and asked for terms of peace. And they attributed it to the intercession of St. Martin. Well, the emperor let him go, and he entered into a type of life as a hermit, which eventually would evolve into monastic life, and he is literally the father of Western monasticism. and started large monasteries and began a life of solitude even deeper. But he was duped into becoming a bishop. I think a lot of bishops would say that today. But he was tricked into coming into a city, and they made him a bishop. And he began working, of course, feverishly in the church, and also continued to build up monastic life. That's my first homily. But the core of St. Martin is that he had this heart for Christ. And he didn't even know it at first. But it was that longing for solitude that was the beginning of the revelation that he had this heart for Jesus. And one of the keys to a heart for Jesus, to be bound to the Sacred Heart, is St. Paul, in his letter to Titus, recommends obedience. Obedience. Obedience to the Lord as primary. And that theme of obedience carries through right into this whole scene with these 10 lepers. It's interesting how obedience can work itself out. And so when I was looking at the gospel this morning and seeing the 10 lepers, the first thing that struck me was that you really can't be obedient unless you have respect for someone. And even if you don't think they deserve your respect, you still respect them. And so that's how St. Martin was. He had respect for the emperor, although he disagreed with him. He still respected him as the emperor. These 10 lepers show this respect immediately. They stood at a distance. They had respect insofar as social distancing, you see. But they stood at a distance. In other words, they were respectful of the fact that they were lepers, and there were laws in place to keep them from getting too close to people so that they might be infected. And so they respected that. They didn't presume on Jesus. They just kept their place, if you will. And then they named Jesus as the Master. They assent to his authority. There's this respect for Jesus in a personal way. And all the 10 lepers agree on this. And as they were going away, first Jesus, he tells them, go to the priests. So this is a mandate. Go to the priests. They obey. It's in this act of obedience that they're healed. They're following his instructions, and healing comes upon them because they're obedient to Christ. So the cure is ministered in an act of obedience. One of them, however, returns, as we see. And not only does he return, we're told he falls at the feet of Jesus. And he thanks Jesus profusely. And as Jesus, the masterful storyteller, does, after he said all this about these lepers, and then this one comes back, he rubs it in everybody's face. Oh, by the way, this guy was a Samaritan. Here is a person who's persona non grata to the Jewish community. They don't like him. But yet, this is the one who comes to thank Jesus profusely and fall at his feet, which is an act of worship. What struck me was, here is a Samaritan who really can't give anything back to Jesus. None of the other 9 either. There is nothing that they can give him in return for what has happened to them. But this one comes with gratitude. It's a meager offering, but it's an offering of his heart. It's his offering of his heart to the Sacred Heart. It speaks of someone who desires not only to take a gift and run, but someone who desires to enter into a relationship with the gift giver. He returns for more. Perhaps not more healing, but more of Jesus himself. He has a relationship now of mutual self-giving with Jesus. Jesus has given of himself to heal him, totally gratuitous, not necessarily any obligations placed on the lepers, on the leper at all, no obligation. And the leper gives him what he has. He's now cleansed and grateful. That's all I have to give you, my gratitude and my thanksgiving. So he gives what he has, Jesus gives what he has, and now they model the mutual self-giving that God desires, not only for himself and all his dear children, but also it's a relationship type that he desires for all his children among one another. The Mass for us becomes the pinnacle of that mutual self-giving. With all that God does for us, the only thing that completely satisfies him is when we join him in the thanksgiving, the self-giving thanksgiving of the Holy Eucharist. We offer our meager selves to him, and he offers his magnanimous divine self to us. It's an opportunity for us to make an effort to go to him and deepen a relationship with him in gratitude. This is what we do at the Mass. And we make an effort to come to him. And through the Eucharist, he makes a great and generous effort to come to us. Body, blood, soul, and divinity. And so Jesus, after sharing all this, and this leper sharing with him, Jesus not only gives him physical healing, but he restores his interior dignity. The fact that you are just not a Samaritan to me. You're not an outsider. You're in my heart. You're a dear one to me. And that comes from the words, stand up. He's groveling at Jesus' feet, and Jesus says, stand up. We can talk face to face because we're close now. It's no longer simply he's standing up, and he's no longer simply with a band of lepers. He's now associated with a heavenly court. It's what St. Martin desired all the time. And this leper finds this. Now he's part of the heavenly court of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And he's told to stand up and go. It wasn't his place to follow Jesus at this time. I suspect that Jesus had a mission that we don't know about, but he had this cured leper, this Samaritan, probably had a profound effect on his community as he witnessed what Christ had done in his unity with the Sacred Heart. So you too, stand and get ready to go, but not right now.
Regina Celi, letare